So before we start, I'd like to just point out you can change your user profile. Probably isn't a big thing for you, but for the markers and classmates, it might be a good idea to know what we look like. If you don't feel comfortable putting a photo of yourself out there, just put a photo of something you like. Like when I took the program, I think I had a photo of like stop sign or something. Um, the reason for that is you're probably going to have a professional photo on LinkedIn, so you just could use the same photo as LinkedIn, is my kind of thought process.
I'm registered in this class. What class?
Hi, I'm going to give some ideas that I have about the organizational behavior assignment one. Because a lot of you, this is one of the first classes and first assignments, I thought I might go into a little bit because yes, you need to read the outcomes 1 through 5, but then I'll just talk about like a disability return to work program a little bit, because that's the one thing that's tough about the safety program is that it's not like other subjects in school kind of where it's very compartmentalized. A lot of things like overlap, right? So maybe I'll talk just a little bit about that. I don't think you need to go into a ton of details. It's more thoughts and then supporting your thoughts. And that's the one thing I'd like to just quickly talk about is things that I see commonly in papers or like research things that I really don't like. And one of those is using the first person. So saying, I would do this. Well, if someone looks at this document in 5 years and you don't work there anymore, I guess like you don't care anymore, but like why is that important? Like I isn't important. It's you should say the OHSP, like the occupational health and safety person, or what professional, like whatever. Right. So like the OHSP is what you should be describing yourself as, because that's the role you are in the paper, right? You're not you. Like no one cares what John thinks. They want to use like me as a resource for what I'm supposed to be doing in the paper, right? So your role in writing the paper is more important than you as a person. I'm sorry to shatter your dreams, but people at work care about what you do, not who you are as a person. So there's that. And then the other thing I was going to talk about real quick. So the first person, and then the other one is a huge thing is justifying your decisions. So if you make a recommendation, the company should do this for Bill, the company should do this, all of that takes time or money. So again, if it goes back to like, I think we should do this. Well, first of all, who are you? Like, why is your solution better than my solution? Like, I could also say, I think this. So like, who's right? Well, you should be right because you're the safety professional, right? So you call yourself that, and that's what you use. And then always you justify your decisions, because like with my background in safety, the moment you want to start spending money or time or change people's like work outcomes, they really are testy a little bit and saying like, well, why do we have to do it this way? What are we doing it this way? How much is this going to cost? So you really want to justify that. Okay. So that's my thought process about writing any of these assignments is like, what is our solution? How do we justify it? So somebody can't come back and say, well, why don't we do this instead? Right. And that's often in meetings, right? And you might experience that as well. People are like, well, I've worked at organizations and I was involved in safety. And that's probably why a lot of you got into this program. I'm not dismissing that. And it's good to vet ideas. Like, so like, obviously, I think there's 20 some odd people in this class. If people have feedback for me, obviously it's a good idea to have the feedback because then things get better with continuous improvement. But the reality is like, you kind of want to be not questioned all the time about what your motives are. And if you are, you want to be in the position that you're coming from strength and that you have external documents supporting you. Sorry about that. I keep having to edit stuff because kids are yelling in the background. So I feel like I'm waffling. I'm waffling here. If you haven't seen this, the required formatting guide, it's in the table of contents. Students read me first. I know at the start of the term, there's a lot of lot of courses and a lot of stuff going on, so maybe you missed this. So the OHS required assignment guide format, pop in here. It'll show you, it goes into like description of what we want, but really it's Times New Roman, double spaced. You always want to have an introductory page, like a title page. It goes through, you can just copy paste this if you use the regulations or whatever. I have a different, I'll get into that actually. Formatting template. So I actually have a sample paper here. You don't need to put running head on the title, but I'm just going to show you how to copy, like make this page very similar. So kind of it goes through, especially if you haven't been in school for a while or you don't remember any of the stuff. It is a good sample document and just kind of like some ideas to have, like having an intro sentence and all that. And like I already belabored the point before, really, if you come out with an idea of like, this is our plan, support it with a reference, right? So that's kind of where are you getting these ideas from? Because companies are very conservative, so they don't want to do stuff other people aren't doing generally. So I'm just gonna copy this page. Okay, so if we go into Word, open this up. So we'll do insert. If we go over here, page number, top page, we want it on the right side, and then we can just type in there. Yeah, you don't need to do any more than that. If you don't like this, you can move it. I kind of like it up a little bit myself, but that's not required. Off the bat, it'll be lighter colored. This is just to indicate it's the header. When you actually print the document, and when I mean print, I mean it's always good in my classes, I'm finding, when you print the document or save the document, save it as a PDF when you upload it into the Dropbox. For whatever reason, between Macs, PCs, different versions of Word, Google Docs, sometimes when you open up the files as the marker, the formatting can be not how the student wanted it to look, right? So, okay, anyways, so that's the top. If we just go back, what do we say? Assignment title. So assignment 1 is good for me. I have a lot of classes, and maybe you'll want to remember it as well. Just go back and forth. Your name. So I'm not going to use my real name. Use this guy's name. I know would be annoyed if he knew I was using his name. Student ID. So that's the big long number that you have. I think it starts with a bunch of zeros. Just make up one for myself here for your time. Then you can highlight all of this, and then this will center it. Good enough for me. Okay, go down. This is kind of, like I said in the other video, it's kind of different for me. The APA, different styles. So do a Martha Stewart here where I kind of jump ahead. So this paper was prepared for Management 191, taught by John Hancock. Done. One thing I don't like in the guide is there's kind of, I think, a error in the guide I just noticed. But I would just like, this is how I would do it. Some other instructors might say it's a bit different, but let's just take a look at this. So if we look at the rubric, This makes it really easy for the marker and puts them in a good mood when they're marking your stuff. Is if you use headers full, well, other than mechanics, because that's like what's in the paper, like grammar, formatting, all that kind of stuff, right? Having a reference guide, all that kind of stuff is going to be the key things out of the paper. So that's why I did like an introduction. I'm not going to write an introduction, but that's where you just briefly describe in 2 or 3, 4 sentences, kind of the most, what the situation is. Yeah, there's workers coming back, suppressed, safety issues, there's a plant, like identifying correct, right? Kind of like that's your intro. So in using the stuff from the course, you could like have a header, individual challenges, group challenges, organizational challenges. This stuff is in the course. So like, that's why it's pretty easy to reference, because once you identify the problem, the solution is right from the course, and you can just use the websites from the course to support your argument, right? Like, this is what's going on. So realistically, there's 3, like just math. I know people get confused by that, but there's 3 main topics worth 20 marks. And the paper is about 10 pages long, I think, from the guide, right? So each one of these 20 mark things probably should be about 2 pages of text. Sounds like a lot, but that's double spaced, and with indentations and stuff, it's not as much as you think. So just like a quick thing grammatically as well, is that when you start, please do not start the paper by saying this paper. You don't read other documents that say that. Like, just start talking, right? Like, what's going on in the situation? Like, yeah, that's I really don't like that. So anyway, have the introduction, start going through. Each of the main sections should be about 2 pages long. I mean, that's probably realistic. Like, you think there's three things, kind of almost 1 point a mark. So like, each one of these could be about 6 sentences long, 8 sentences long. If you reference it, easily at 2 pages. Maslow's hierarchy. So a really easy way I would do it is you do a header of like stages of Maslow's theory, and then each subsection, because there's 5 of them, I believe, is each subsection write out what's going on, how Bill is meeting those needs or not meeting those needs, and kind of like maybe what should be done, kind of like, you know what I mean? Like, what an ideal state would be. You don't have to say like exactly what your solution is, but it's there you go. And then employee motivation, satisfaction address. So like, I'll give you a big hint there. How old is Bill? Like, how old is Bill, and what would help him be successful because of his demographic, right? So like, that's the big thing you got to do, is look at the course and what age Bill is, what would work for that group. You know, you don't want to use Gen Z stuff, like, so whatever demographic Bill is. And then follow up and long-term suggestions. My suggestion is always, with any document, is have some short-term and long-term suggestions. Usually long-term stuff costs money and takes a lot of time. So always you want to have and I guess follow-up would be like the short-term solution, but you could go just short-term, long-term. Short-term in safety often is where you get the street cred on the production floor, or like whatever industry you're in, because people see you making changes, right? So Bill is obviously like a safety hazard based off the readings. You're going to have to do something immediately about him. And then there's also the long term with Bill, because like, it's like he's a good employee in that. Like, we don't necessarily want to lose Bill. It's just like, what do we do today to limit the safety risks to the company? And then long term, how do we get Bill remotivated? So that's, I mean, it's out of the 20 marks. So you could have one subsection that says short-term solutions, and then long-term solutions or suggestions, I guess. And yeah, and then that's kind of your paper. And then the conclusion, kind of summarizing what the situation was. Obviously, don't add any new ideas because it's the end of the paper. And then that's where you're done. And that's kind of the paper. Really quick too, kind of forgot about talking about this. There's a referencing video here, and I show you how to use websites and the regulations to reference them in the papers. So if you have questions, but like that's already pre-done, so I don't want to, all you have to do is click it and watch it if you don't know how to reference. And I guess like what I did was a modified APA style. So like if you guys are coming from a university background, this isn't exactly the APA style. I did kind of a modified, a little bit simplified version, just so it's a little bit easier for the students, actually. But that's kind of that. My thought process is a little bit on this. I didn't go into a ton of details, but those are kind of the big things I think people have issues with. The other big one is just starting. I find often like people contact me and be like, I need help. And then we just talk about it for like 10 minutes. And then they feel kind of like almost embarrassed that they waffled so much on it when the content really is in the course. Like it's not too much. Now, I'll quickly talk about the disability and return to work. So like there's a whole nother class called disability and return to work. So like you don't really need to be the expert in the disability stuff. What I would do in the paper is like talk about like you'd use HR as a resource to make sure what you're doing is like cool with company policy. Cause often it depends on the company, but like often safety might be in HR or safety might be in the facilities department. And I'll tell you, like they're run very differently. It's still safety, but how the departments are run is usually very different. Yeah, so like I mean that might be with HR. You're booking training. You might be the one booking the training. Like the assignment would be pages and pages long, right? Like with an employee manual, which I don't think anyone would want to read. But like some of those stuff you can assume like that you would book the training for the safety. Again, not you, the OHSP, right? One other thing I was going to mention is so like the questions really parallel what the marking rubric is. So so if you look at the different questions, really there's like five questions with sub questions, and then they kind of follow into here, right? Like with the suggestions being there, the motivations being there. So like this block here should be intrinsic, extrinsic motivation, and then which I'm sure I should even say less because I'm probably confusing people more than anything with that. But yeah, so the questions, if you're like, why is the rubric different? So the questions kind of the layout of the paper that's how they're marked down here. Just kind of with a rubric, and I don't know. So as I mentioned before, in the content student read me first section, there's a video that specifically goes into referencing. And I also have a channel, SAS Poly John, on YouTube. So that will be another channel. So if you add me on there, you can access the other videos as far as I know. And then, but here's a really quick explanation of kind of how to do referencing. I find this is often the thing people didn't learn in school, or they forgot, or who knows, lost to the ages to them anyway. So where did you get your ideas from is in the references, and kind of how the references go. Like I have a separate reference video where I actually show how to do this step by step. But I'll just talk really quickly. So it's the last name of the author first, comma, first name or initial, depending what they do, bracket, the year the document was published, not the month, the year, and then italicize the title of the document, period, and then retrieve the date it was retrieved from, and then the website. And then so generally what you can do, and I do go into this in the video, is you can just, there's a trick you do with copying a website. And that is when you copy the website like this, I'll just do it real quick. You can turn it into a URL, and you can either paste it as a URL or you can paste it as the title and then break the hyperlink. So that's another thing you can do. And then this looks really complicated, but really it's not. Like, watch my video. If you have questions, definitely I can hop on and and help you do it the first time, especially if you've been out of school for quite a while. There's a few things there's a little bit wrong with this. The author's names should be in alphabetical order. So like H is before R, like, so like alphabetical order, pretty straightforward, right? It's like you're just scrolling down. That was the only thing this person really didn't do correctly. And this person, doesn't really matter who it is, but other than that, they did a pretty good job. And you're just scrolling through, italicized name. For APA style in the guide, it's only supposed to be the first letter that's capitalized, but I'm not going to worry about that too much. It's starting to be pretty nitpicky. And then other things, if you go into paragraph, there's this thing called hanging. So that's why it's hanging. So what hanging means is the top line will be straight against the margin, and then the preceding lines will be moved over. So it's indented that way. So it looks nice.